Hey, all you young princes and princesses. It is your royal host, Larry Saperstein, joined today, as always, by my other royal half.
Ooh.
Regal.
Okay.
Even.
I'll take that.
Jacob Bellotti, how are you doing?
I'm so good. How are you, Larry?
I am, I'm doing okay. It's raining.
It's raining.
The rains have come.
Los Angeles is raining, honey.
And water eats fire. It eats it.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
It sure does. And speaking of fire, you're listening to a fire podcast called Let's Talk About That.
All systems are a go.
Talking database activated.
Begin in 3, 2, 1.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what? Let's talk about who? Let's talk about me. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about that. Girl, I cannot believe we are talking about that.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Let's talk about that. I don't know. I was trying there to get that one.
I get it. You know, it's fire. I don't think they say that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. That might be outdated now.
It's definitely outdated.
Okay.
It's not a maybe.
Right. Well, we have a great guest today.
We do have a great guest today.
But before we get to that, let's talk about us.
Let's talk about us. We have a little bit more, of our New York trip to update the people on.
Yes, we're finally back.
We're finally back.
This is, and you'll hear me say this in a little bit again. We are recording this the day before it comes out. Our closest recording date yet. So.
I kind of live.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we can be really topical.
Let's see if you're living when we're pulling social media clips at 1 a.m.
Well, that's a problem for tomorrow. 1 a.m. You know
1
what I mean?
Yeah. But in real time, yes, the fires seem to be dissuading.
Dissuading.
I don't know.
Dispersing. Disfiring. Disarming.
Things are looking up in Los Angeles. How about that?
Things are looking up.
While we were in New York, we did see one more show.
Yes.
We saw a show called Maybe Happy Ending.
Maybe Happy Ending. Just want to give a quick shout out to a friend of the pod, Helen Shen.
Yes, Helen. We love you.
Helen J. Shen, even. She was so good in this show. She's been, our friend for a little while now. And I was so happy to see her do an awesome job in an awesome show. I thought the show was beautiful, mostly visually. Like the visual aspect of the show is just like gorgeous, and it was fun to see something that was like so visually heightened.
Absolutely. I think the visuals were super unique, super fun, not something you normally see on Broadway. And Helen was so good.
Yeah.
She was incredible.
Yeah, and shout
really
out to
brought
Darren
life
Criss as well.
to the character.
Yeah, to a robot character, which is like kind of hard to do,
She did a great job.
Yeah, and like shout out to Darren Criss, shout out to, it's a small show, only four person cast, I think, and a plant that has like a character.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I feel like we don't have too much time to like get like super into it, but if you're in the city and you want to see something like original and like something, it really is kind of unlike most musicals or most things I've seen on Broadway. So Maybe Happy Ending. Check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you wanted to talk a little bit about how you're feeling this week as we are 1 week in to the next 4 years.
I mean, look, I'm feeling a little bit better right now in this moment just because we like recorded an episode and I feel like my energy is up and I don't want to be like a downer. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just like scared. I feel like, I don't know. I'm feeling a little hopeless like right now in this moment because it's like, what are we like? We're making like art, I guess. Like that thing where like artists sometimes feel like their work doesn't matter when like the world is kind of falling apart.
I can understand that, but I also disagree in the sense of I think that's when it matters most.
Totally. I mean, I think that's what most rational people would say.
Yeah.
I just like, I was in like a comedy rehearsal before, like making jokes about poop, you know, and like, I mean, no, it wasn't actually poop jokes. It was dick jokes. I mean, like, you know, just like doing rehearsal for like a comedy show, and then like just feeling like, what are we doing? Like, we're just like, are we like turning a blind eye? Are we not doing enough like in this moment? Like, how do we prepare ourselves and how do we protect ourselves? And I just don't know what to do. And it's like already feeling overwhelming and scary, and it's only been a week.
Yeah. I think the overwhelmingness and scariness will start to dissipate a little.
You think so?
Dissipate. That's the word I was looking for earlier.
Hey, dissipate!
But I do, because right now it's very fresh and new, and it's always the first week when they try and do the most things.
Yeah.
I will say there's been good news in terms of a lot of it. Basically, every executive order is being blocked by judges because they're blatantly unconstitutional.
Right.
And what helps us to know that people are fighting. There are people who are on the correct side of history that are out there not letting these things happen quietly. And so I think focusing on those things rather than the, you know, hatred of the current situation and the hatred that this awful individual produces and shouts out all the time. I think that's the way to get through it, is to focus on the people actually making a difference and not being part of this oligarchy.
Yeah. I just got so pissed last night because a video came up on YouTube that was like, how does tyranny begin? And it was like an 8-minute video from the New York Times. Mm-hmm. It was like a New York Times whatever. And it was different video clips from different people from other countries that have like recently kind of devolved into, you know, tyrannical dictatorship kind of government. One was from Russia. One was from, I don't even remember at this moment. But, and, you know, they were all kind of giving different, one was Singapore, I guess. They were all from whatever. They were giving different anecdote stories, and then I was like, "This is a great video, but it's like too little, too late." New York Times, you're the one that refused to endorse Kamala Harris, and now you're gonna post a video after he's already president, being like, "How does tyranny begin?"
Well,
like,
also,
what the fuck is that?
The New York Times is very transphobic, and they've done a lot of things that are very bad, and it's really, legacy media has done a horrible job of covering Trump. That's always been the case.
But it just pisses me off that now they'll post a video about tyranny and tyrannical government. Like, what possessed them to do that now? Like,
because now people are scared.
So now they're going to like capitalize on that.
Exactly. They're going to make as much money as they can capitalizing on that.
It's just like, I'm so tired of the fear. I'm so tired of like all that stuff. I just feel like we got to like do something.
Well, I'll tell you something we can do, and that is continuing to make a stupid, silly podcast.
That's true.
That takes people's minds off of it.
That's true.
And in that spirit, our guest today, she is an iconic figure in both television, film, and stage.
Yes.
She was Princess Amber on the hit Disney franchise, Sofia the First.
Yes, she was also in another hit children's TV franchise, The Legend of Korra, part of the Avatar, The Last Airbender universe.
She played Penny Scavo, Lynette Scavo's daughter, on Desperate Housewives.
And she is just, I mean, she's been in so many different things. She's been in soap operas, and she's all around a great person and friend.
So please welcome to the podcast, Darcy Rose Byrnes, right after this. Darcy Rose! Rose.
Yes.
You are here on Let's Talk About That, honey.
I am. Hi.
How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Ask anyone. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's that rainy day in Los Angeles.
I'm so happy.
It's a rainy day in Los Angeles.
It hasn't really rained in a long time.
What was
which
it, 200 days or
Yeah.
something insane?
Is that so?
Yeah, it's been
Something like that. We
very
I didn't know
problematic for the
Wow.
fires that have occurred. But
Didn't feel like
hopefully,
200 days.
This comes out tomorrow. As
Yes.
we're recording this, we're a little behind.
No,
but
this is good.
Time travel is what this is.
This is good. We're being topical now.
Exactly. We can talk about things exactly as
Okay.
they're happening in the moment.
Yes.
And it seems like this is helping with the fire situation. So there you go.
I certainly hope so. That's we definitely needed it. So it started raining and I was like, yes,
Yeah.
finally.
It poured today. Did you
did.
Did you catch that?
I did.
Oh
I
my
heard. I
God.
thought I heard some thunder. I was very.
Yes.
It was music to my ears.
Yes.
You were one of the first people that alerted me about the winds that were happening in LA.
Was I?
Because
Oh.
we were out of town.
Oh, that's right.
and
Yeah.
I got a text from you that was like, "Are the winds crazy by you?" And I was like, "Winds? I don't
Yeah.
know what you're talking about at all."
Winds.
And then literally the fire started the next
I think I was
day.
probably on my phone for like 48 hours straight. I was
Oh, me
texting
too.
every single person I knew, like, "Are you safe? Where are you?" Like, and then like an hour later, "Are you safe? Where are
Yes,
you?" Because
me
it would
too.
change so quickly.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about some fun entertainment stuff.
Yes, we're gonna take our minds straight off those fires.
Guys, I
and
thought we were talking about weather today. Like, you just can't like spring
Yes,
this on me. Like,
it's the weather podcast.
we're gonna spring on you some intense questions.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. About your entertainment career. A lot of people know you from your voiceover work. You
Sure,
are,
yeah.
I would dare to say, one of the most successful voice actors of our generation.
Oh goodness.
I mean, you're very prolific.
You are.
You know that, right?
Sure. I guess.
Just take the compliment, girl.
When I work with people like Lori Allen and Tara Strong and Tom Kenny, it's like you're talking to me. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, but the
Sure,
thing is
sure,
that the
okay.
thing is that you work with those people, and those people are not in our generation. You're in our
Fair.
generation.
That's
Fair.
right. I think
So that's the thing.
I think like you're around our age,
Yeah.
and there's not too many voice actors who have done quite as much as
Mm-hmm.
you have in the field. I think that's fair to say. Right?
I think that's
I've
absolutely
been very
fair.
fortunate. I've been very fortunate that I've gotten to work in a lot of different aspects of voiceover as well. A lot of people will find something and kind of make it their niche, or I guess the industry makes it their niche. And I've been very fortunate that I've gotten to do, animation, video games, dubbing, looping. Like I've
Right.
kind of been in most of the different areas of voiceover. So that's very exciting.
Yeah. Have you ever done like audiobooks or like commercials
I have
and stuff?
not done commercials. Yes.
Okay.
The first thing, I think it was the first thing I ever booked for voiceover was a string of commercials for Home Depot for Disney. And it was
Wow.
the commercials, Legend of Korra, and Sofia the First and Desperate Housewives all in 1 week, like back to back.
Oh my
Wow.
But
goodness.
speaking of voiceover, this is gonna jingle
Oh.
next to the mic, so I'm taking that off. Yeah, so that all happened at the same time, but I have not done audiobooks. And one of my closest friends is visually impaired, and every once in a while he'll call me. He'll be like, "Do an audiobook already! I want you to read to me."
Yeah.
Well, you could just call him and read.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I can just call him. Yeah.
Just record it
it
and
was
play
the
a loop,
best of
walk
times.
away,
Yeah.
go get dinner.
I mean, when I did not know that you were on Legend of Korra, and then when you told me that, I was like so gagged. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, like that is such a big, and we'll talk about the Disney stuff in a second. But like, just to go on that, like, first of all, like the whole like Avatar: Last Airbender franchise, saga was so massive, and like even now
Yeah.
has such a big following. I mean, everyone rewatched those shows during COVID, like the whole like
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
He's just talking
you.
about himself too.
no, but it was just big, like in terms of like there was like such a community for it,
Yeah.
and like that's like true fandom energy. Like, what
Yeah.
does it feel like to be like that in like a fandom like that?
It's definitely a pinch me moment. You as an actor, you do things and people will say like, "Oh, have you been in anything I've seen?" It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So then
Right.
when you do something that so many people adore and that you yourself also adore, but that feeling is shared with a big portion of the population, it's very wonderful. It's funny I've been fortunate that I've been on some shows that have some really big fandoms, but Legend of Korra and the Avatar universe has a very specific reaction.
Yeah.
That I call fan bending. I was
Okay, I love that.
I was talking in an interview to one person, and Legend of Korra came up, and the person who had just interviewed me but didn't know that started bouncing next
my
to
God.
me. And it's like the Avatar bounce. Like you say, I was icky, and they go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And they start
Yeah.
like physically bouncing
Whoa.
just because I've mentioned this show. And it's this wild reaction that happens regardless of age.
Yeah.
And regardless of how cool somebody is, you say that show and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a really cool thing to make someone so genuinely excited.
I mean, Aang is like kind of his own like superhero
Yeah.
like figure in this way, celebrity figure, or I feel like what I'm trying to say is in the real world, I feel like if you're a fan of the show, like you see Aang the way that they see him in like Legend of Korra. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Like as like
Right.
this like savior kind of like so the fact that like you played like a relative,
His granddaughter.
his granddaughter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that is like very, very
One of my favorite
cool.
things was a running gag, a callback, an animation callback of when I got kidnapped at one point. I just was talking to the kidnappers and we're talking about something on the map and I take my hands out and I start pointing at it. And it was just a direct callback to Aang doing that. in
Yeah.
The
Oh
Last
yeah,
Airbender.
yeah, yeah.
I was like,
girl, for a second I thought you just said that you actually got kidnapped.
yes, like on the regular. Yeah, absolutely. But only anyway, we're filming. No, but yeah. So I loved the history of the show.
Yeah.
That was able to then be continued into ours and honored and stuff and get to. I mean, Icky was just a fun character in general. She was high energy and shrill. I had this one person when I said that I was Icky, they were like, "Oh, cool." I didn't like her. Great. No, my favorite one though was he was like, "Oh, you were Icky, do the voice," and I was like, "Get off our island!" And I did it, and he went, "Wow, that sounds just like her."
It's like, well, yeah.
it is just like her.
Yes.
Hopefully.
I think that's probably a common voice actor thing that like people just don't expect to hear the voice like in the way that it is.
yeah.
Like especially like coming out of a person's mouth, because when you see it on, it's like
It's 2D.
it's 2D.
yeah.
It's like even though it's a person, but like even in something like SpongeBob, for example, it's like it's really kind of jarring to like see the voice actors from SpongeBob doing the voices because they're coming out of mouths that don't belong to
Right.
the voice that you hear.
Especially
you know
when you
what I
get
mean?
to actors like D. Bradley Baker, who's like most famous for doing creature, voice work, and
Right.
like he was Momo, like he does all the creatures and stuff.
Yeah.
So then you see him doing it, and you're like,
Yeah, it's just weird.
Did you record that like with the cast in the studio, or was it like solo?
It was a little bit, well, for every show has a different setup when it
Yeah.
comes to voiceover.
Yeah.
For that show, I mostly recorded with my siblings. So the
Okay.
kids always recorded together. Occasionally there would be Janet Varney, who played Cora, would be there as well. It would really depend on who had the bulk of the interaction with us in each individual scene and well, each individual episode, because you really would do one, maybe multiple episodes at a time during a record
Sure.
session.
Right.
But for the most part, it's just the kids. And so I met everybody at the table read, the first table read, and then I didn't see anyone again for ever.
Years.
Really.
Yeah.
Which meant that one day, years later, I was walking down the street and I heard J.K. Simmons talking.
Whoa.
And I screamed, "That's my father!" Turned around and ran after him, to the surprise of his family that was with him.
Right.
So that was a nice little awkward moment, but it's because I hadn't seen him.
And J.K. Simmons is, iconic Oscar winner. Hello.
Yes, he is.
I mean, that is like that. You fall into that category too of like people who are in so many things, and you just start knowing them from being that. Like J.K. Simmons is in
Right.
that category,
Yeah.
right? Of like actors that are in 100 million different shows, and you start to like notice them pop up all over the place, and that's how you become familiar with them.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, one of the shows you were in was Sofia the First. Let's talk a little bit
Fantastic
about
pivot.
that.
Fantastic. Yes.
Now, that was with, what's her name? The Modern Family. Ariel Winter, and that became like a huge hit.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
What was that like when that just became like a big thing, and like all of a sudden it was like a very recurring thing that was happening?
Yeah. Well, as far as it being a big hit, that didn't really fully land because the market was 2 to 5 year olds.
Right.
So it wasn't really until I'm doing Reefer Madness and our newest cast member, Nema, is like, I watched Sofia the first. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because now there is a subset of the kids who watched it with their siblings or who watched it when they were a little bit older, who are now old enough to be on social media and to be talking about it. But at the time, I'd be like, oh, I'm Princess Amber, like, because a mother would be talking to me, and the kid would be like, no, you're not.
Right.
Princess Amber's on the TV. Liar. So it didn't, like, I knew it was popular. I knew it was liked, but the amount that it landed or stuck with people is not something that was an immediate understanding. It was as kids got older and were able to verbalize it, then it was like, now it's a thing. But I knew it was special from the beginning. It was the first time that Disney was having a princess for kids who was the same age as the kids.
Right.
You know, it's not someone to look up to. It's a peer. And then the relationships between the characters themselves, it was all very textured and nuanced. You know, I always said that Sofia was the kid that you want your kid to be, and Princess Amber is the kid that your kid actually is. So while Sofia is being this model kid, and of course Sofia would mess up as well, but like she generally was making the right choices or coming from the right place, whereas Amber was selfish. She was, you know, self-centered and conceited and very like image-centered. And
you're all of those things.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Right.
We're doing a podcast about
The episode's called "Let's Talk About Darcy Rose." Yeah.
But to do a character, like, especially in animation, when you have a show like, you know, for instance, SpongeBob, where Bikini Bottom stays the same for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
To do a show where actually the same thing happened in Korra, Icky got older. The Amber that starts the series in the first movie, where the beginning of the film, I'm the bad guy.
Right.
It's not until later in the film, spoiler alert, that you know that Cedric is like the real bad. But I literally am the evil stepsister.
Right.
So to go from that to the rightful and future queen of Enchantia, who you actually want to see succeed, getting to do that journey is, as an actor, is a dream. And then to do that in an animated series,
it's not common.
It's not common. And it's just a wonderful, and at such a young age that I got to do that. It's like, this is
it's huge.
Yeah, and it became like a big social media thing. Like,
oh yeah, how did
Larry
you
was
feel
showing
about the
me this.
TikTok moment? It was a couple of years ago. It was a couple of years ago. Do you not know about this?
I know there's like videos on TikTok, but
oh my
like there
God,
was a moment.
we're breaking news to you.
I was born 80 years old. I don't
know. This is not recent. I don't even remember. Maybe it was 2022.
Okay.
Like it was probably like, I guess, 3 years ago at this point. But the theme song, the Sofia the First theme song, was big, and it was like huge on TikTok, and people would like sing it and kind of like act it out, and you know, it was just like one of those trends. But it was like really big. It was like a whole moment. You didn't know anything about that? Wow.
No.
Are you on TikTok? Do you use TikTok?
Reluctantly. I have one.
Oh, okay.
But I don't. It's on a separate phone. I remember to turn the phone on every couple months.
I love that it's on a separate phone.
Yeah.
That is fierce.
The TikTok phone.
I'm a reluctant advertiser. Most of my social media, I mean, you could probably see from my Instagram, most of it is just like promoting whatever it is I'm in.
You're a very
reluctant.
avid Instagrammer.
You're
all over the Instagram.
I am. I'm good about like promoting the stuff that I'm in.
Yeah.
Generally,
yes,
there was a couple
way better
projects.
than me.
There's a couple projects I forgot. I missed I did 7 Hours to Die with Sarah Paulson and James Patterson, a Audible series, and I missed the premiere date because it was towards the end of Reefer, and I just didn't see it. I was like, I wonder when this is going to come out. Oh,
it's been out.
Oh, it's out.
I did a video game called Outer Plane. I played Regina. Missed the premiere of that one. I was like, oh guys, okay, I'm usually better than this. Sorry guys.
Do you get creepy video game fans?
I don't know if I get particularly creepy video game fans, but I do just get occasionally creepy fans, period.
Interesting.
You know,
Okay.
show me your feet. Do you shave your legs?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Wow.
It's like, okay. But generally,
No,
I feel like
you know what
for
you have
Anna-
to look at that as? You have to look at that as an opportunity. Okay?
Yes.
Because this is
Everything.
a monetary opportunity right here.
Capitalism is at its all-time high. We gotta,
Feet pics.
capitalize.
Search. Let's see, what's the price on these? What can I get for this? Yeah, but
So for Sophia the First, did you ever do recordings with the other cast, or was that
did.
also?
yeah, a lot of times I recorded solo. A lot of times I recorded with my first brother, Zach Callison, because all the brothers kept aging out because it was right before.
Yeah, right.
So we did a lot of recording together. We did, Ariel and I recorded together.
What's she like? Tell me about her.
It was wonderful. She was my stepsister.
yeah.
It was really wonderful to do that show with her. She was just a perfect Sofia. But the crazy one, which we were not ever allowed to record together again, was my dad, Travis Willingham.
Okay.
So I recorded with Jess Harnell as well, which is fantastic. We're buds. I adore him. And I was sick that day, and so I was rather in check. But Travis and I together, when we were both healthy, was kind of wild. And Sam Riegel was our voice director, and he does Critical Role with Travis. And
Okay, cool.
so he just flat out told us we weren't ever allowed to record together again.
Because you're being too disruptive.
We weren't being disruptive because we're professional, but like every time we weren't doing a take, we were bouncing into different voices, just doing a shtick about things that were unrelated, just going, what about that thing over there? And just like going off.
Well,
And
they
it was
have to
like,
give
guys,
you.
No, stop. Not again.
They
Never
gotta
again.
give you a little bit of grace, because you probably how many hours are you in those booths on those
4,
days?
3 to 4. I mean,
3 to 4?
It would depend on how many episodes you're doing and what the workload was for that day.
So how
But-
many hours for an episode do you think?
It would depend on how much material you have. Like if it
Yeah.
was one of the really heavy episodes for Amber, like 4 hours.
I mean, it's just like even 4 hours, you're like in a booth
Yeah.
with like no windows or, and it's
Yeah.
all padded. And I just feel, and yes, you get to take breaks and stuff, but I just feel like after a few hours, you have to feel like you're in like an insane asylum, and like, you just start going cuckoo, no?
Not really, I think, because
No?
No, I mean, I think anyone who does voiceover is probably just a little bit insane anyway. So like,
It's true.
I mean, just these voices come out and these, weird, bits and shtick come. This is us just messing
Right.
around.
I guess that's
So,
true, huh? That's like tap dancers not being able to keep their feet still. It's
Yeah.
like that.
That's true.
100%.
Even when we're in bed, he's like tapping in the bed. It's really, it's a lot.
Well,
Yeah,
it
I'll
just
just
happens.
like standing still, just be
Yeah.
like, yeah. Even if it's just doing that with you can't see it, but just like in my shoe, I'm just like, yeah.
They should have made you tap dance with me and Rapunzel.
That would have been lovely.
But the whole thing was that you couldn't dance.
Yeah, I couldn't. I wasn't supposed to dance. I was
Yeah.
very unsure if I should even do the split at the for closing night, and I was like, "All right, I'm going for it." It's our
Wait,
last
when
show.
did you do a split?
Oh my goodness! So for anyone who doesn't know, we did
We did a
Rapunzel-
show together.
We did a show together. We're called Rapunzel and Her Holiday Wish. It was a panto, and a panto is basically where kids get to yell at you the
Yeah.
entire time. It's an immersive, interactive.
Interactive.
British
Those
tradition.
kids were mean. Let me just tell you
The amount of
this.
times they told you to jump out the tower.
You would be standing there and you'd be like, "What should I do?" And the kids would go, "Jump!"
But my favorite one during that scene though was a kid went sneak out, and I went sneak out. Oh no! I listened to my mother.
I do remember
And
that
I
one.
was so like that was my favorite probably improv moment of all time. Because I walked off and Sally was like, "That was the best thing I've ever seen," and I'm like, "I love you, Sally." Sally
parent- I'm
Struthers,
sure
who
the
also
parent-
was on Let's Talk About
Sally
That.
Struthers,
of the pod.
previous guest. Friend of the
Yeah,
pod.
so I did the scene when LJ Benet, who played my prince, teaches me how to dance. For closing night, I would always, because I'm like telling him to show me how to dance, and then I'm kind of doing some weird version of what Rapunzel thinks dancing is, which usually ended
Gotcha.
up becoming some version of like a really bad karate form.
Right.
And it just got increasingly more stupid as the run went on because I was just trying to break him, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which never happened. I would be like kicking and stuff.
I
He's
know
like,
he would never.
never break. What's that? Dancing. And he said, down, and I was already kind of scooting down, like I was going to do like a half like stupid split like
Yeah.
this, and then he just said down because my arms were up, and I went okay, and so I dropped to the ground.
Work.
And then he was like, no, up. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I wasn't
there. I
supposed to
saw
dance
it.
though.
I saw it.
Yeah, that was really nice, yeah. But
I was off
you
stage.
you were fantastic in that, by the way. I think you probably
Thank
had
you.
the hardest job because we got the kids to yell at us, and like it was amazing. And I'm a stand-up and an improviser, and Reefer already was very immersive, so I felt like I was like prepared, like I was inching closer and closer towards a panto.
Yeah.
As my career went on, but you were the MC. Like you're the one who sets the tone, so it's like you have to be able to interact, but then you also have to be able to control it and keep it on its tracks, and that's like a special skill that most people don't have. And so like you did a fantastic job.
you helped me a lot. I mean, I was really freaked out about the like interactive. There's a part at the end where I had to interact with the
song
kids
sheet,
and like the kids had to come up on stage and they each kind of got their own interview moment, and I was like very freaked out about that because it was supposed to be funny, and I was like, what if it's not funny? But you helped me out a lot, just like being like, just plan things, and then then I went to Jacob and I was like, we need to.
I wrote his jokes.
Yeah, I mean, you wrote like a good half of what I wound up saying, but it was Darcy Rose that was like, just plan out some things, and then I went to Jacob, who this is the dream team right here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like I think when you're a good comedian, people just think that you're brilliant, and granted, a lot of comedians are very smart because that's how comedy works.
Sure.
But it's not that we're just like quick on our feet. It's just we're well prepared.
Right.
We have 20 responses ready depending on what an audience can throw at us, and then you add in being able to improvise with hecklers and stuff, but you have your Rolodex of jokes, and so you just whip one out. But the thing that we were always like shaking our head at backstage was how quickly you could do the math, because he had this one joke where,
but sometimes I would be totally wrong.
you know what? We weren't even tracking it. We were just like, that was so fast.
Sometimes I would be like 1 or 2 years off, and there are moments.
Explain what you're talking about for our audience.
Okay, so there was one joke that I would do where, and then we will change topics. But there was one joke that I used to do where I would ask the kid like, how old are you? And,
I'm 7.
Right, and then so I'd be like, 7. That was a great year. I remember it like it was exactly 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Ha 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 ha.
And that, but see, even that math was wrong because I'm not 27. Well, I'm almost 27. I'm 26. So I guess I should have said 19. But so sometimes I would sometimes I would just kind of ballpark round up to what I remember.
Yeah. What do the kids know?
We didn't know. We were
10 was a very easy one.
So easy.
10 was an easy one. I would
So
just say
easy.
16 years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you both have Wikipedia-able ages, so
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
you could be found out.
No, I've been doing this since before I was born. I've got no chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wasn't Wayne Brady in Sofia the first two?
He was. And then I did Two Sir with Love with him as well.
Yeah. Did you know him going into it?
Yeah. Well, again, because of the way voiceover works, I hadn't seen him since the premiere of Sofia the First.
Wow.
But the weirdest thing, it was very kismet, was I was doing a concert, and I cannot remember what the concert is called at this point. But it was for a theater in Los Angeles to promote, local theater productions. And Kristen Bell, texted and said, "Hey, can you come sing from Reefer Madness?" So me and my co-star went.
Love that Kristen Bell texted you.
She's a doll. We'll get to that in a minute. I love that woman. But she texted me and my co-star and said, "Can you come sing Romeo and Juliet?" And so we went to do our little snippet from Reefer Madness. And I'm sitting in the green room, and in walks Wayne Brady, because he was doing a song as well. And so we spent like 20 minutes just like chatting and just catching up and more getting to know each other, because like when you're on a carpet and one of you is, a teenager, it's like a different thing.
Right.
So like really actually just getting, and we had like a wonderful discussion that was like very like connective. Like we were able to talk about stuff and be like, oh, cool. And then like a month later, I'm at rehearsal and I'm like, "Hey, Wayne." He's like, this was meant to be. Like when they told me it was you, it was like, oh my gosh.
Things just work out so weirdly in this town.
He was E.R. Braithwaite. So To Serve With Love is the Sidney Poitier movie. So he was E.R. Braithwaite, which is the Sidney Poitier character that the character is actually based on. That's the guy's real name.
Yeah.
And then I was Pamela Dare, the student that's in love with him.
Wow.
So it was just, it was wonderful. And I worked with L.J. Benet in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he did.
And then we both did Rapunzel
Rapunzel.
together. Yeah.
Everyone gets
Thank
connected.
you. Let's go, family.
Yeah. Everyone gets connected in so many ways.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be right back with more Darcy Rose right after this.
we're back.
We're back.
So just before the break, we were talking about theater,
Yes.
and you've been mentioning Reefer a lot.
Yes.
And you were just in this revival of Reefer Madness in Los Angeles.
Yes.
What was that experience for you?
It was madness, that's for sure. It was wild. I mean, so I was not familiar with it before I went into it. Did the audition, all of that was generally normal, sent a self-tape in, sent one of my parodies that I wrote during quarantine, part of your world quarantunes. Up where they walk, up where they bask, up where they talk and don't wear a mask. Did the callback. It was one of those things that in the room you were like, oh, this feels right.
Yeah.
And it was, and there we go. And so I played Mary Lane, which was the role that Kristen Bell did in the New York company. And then in the movie, that they did a movie musical version of it as well.
Oh, I didn't know. Give me a little bit of history about the show, because it kind of had this like LA cult following, but I didn't know that it was a New York production. I thought it was always in LA, like even 20 years ago.
Yeah. So to start at the beginning, Reefer Madness, formerly entitled Tell Your Children, was an exploitation film in the 1930s about the dangers of marijuana.
Right.
And Dan Studney and Kevin Murphy were just kind of tooling around, and they were like, has this been made this is funny.
Right.
Has this been made a satire yet? So they decided to turn it into a satirical musical called Reefer Madness, the musical. And so that premiered in 1999 at the Hudson Theaters in Los Angeles with Christian Campbell as Jimmy Harper. And then they transferred to New York after they had a 2-year run at the Hudson, which is
that's like so crazy,
wild, especially for Los Angeles. So they transferred to New York. Opened, they were in tech during 9/11, so just, kind of crazy. Didn't last long for obvious reasons. They shut down. They kind of recouped, and they in 2005, and so that's when Kristen Bell joined the cast, was in New York.
Okay, got it.
And then they, and Lori Allen was the original May in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And when our May, Nicole Parker Redford, had to go do Ursula in Little Mermaid, Lori Allen came back and reprised her role for 3
Oh,
weeks
wow.
to replace her, which was, and that was the first reprisal from an original cast member that we had, which is the story that I'm leading up to, if I can get through it quickly. So then in 2005, they turned it into a movie musical, and it was still Christian Campbell as Jimmy Harper. He was Jimmy Harper throughout all of it. They brought Alan Cumming on board to play the lecturer, and Kristen Bell.
Friend of the pod, Alan Cumming.
Can you watch this movie anywhere?
Yeah. It was on Showtime. It won an Emmy for Mary Jane Mary Lane, which is fascinating to me because Mary Jane Mary Lane was the new song that they wrote so that they could be up for an Emmy.
Yeah, okay.
And to me, so my character is Mary Lane. It's Jimmy Harper singing about his love for Mary Jane.
Right.
Hot. And then he realizes that he's loved by Mary Lane.
Right.
And it feels like the culmination, like I could feel it in the audience every night of like, I could feel it, this like breath happen of like, this is the moment that the audience was waiting for.
Right.
And so it's fascinating to me.
Well,
that
when you introduce a character called Mary Lane in a Reed musical, I think
it's so fascinating to me that like this is like the point at which we're leading to, and it didn't even come until later in the process. It just kind of shows how how things get created is such an interesting story,
for sure.
Journey.
Sometimes things like get made for different. There's a lot of musicals, like Cabaret is a musical like that, where like things didn't get added till later, but then they just like fit into the show and they stay into the show forever.
Yeah. So, fast forward to this year, well, actually a few years ago, but like this year, 2024, and then they wanted to do the 25th anniversary revival, bring it back to Los Angeles where it started. And among other producers, Christian Campbell, Kristen Bell, and Alan Cumming were now part of the production team, along with, of course, Dan Studney and Kevin Murphy and all the incredible creative team we had. Spencer Liff was our director and choreographer. And so it was just this wonderful blend of history and nostalgia, like having the creative team, like Dan Studney and Kevin Murphy were there like throughout all of it.
Yeah.
Andy Fickman was part of the team as well. He came in later because he was doing Heathers, our sister wife musical, as we call it, because it's part of the same creative team. But I remember there was moments where like we were rehearsing Mary Sunshine, me and Thomas Decker, who plays Ralph, and it was very, very early on, and I wasn't sure what the notes were because it was like a kind of a riffy part, and I had the sheet music, but I was going quick. And so instead of trying to like figure it out, I just messed with something. And I think that one was Dan. He went, do that.
Yeah.
Do that again. And so it was this blend of nostalgia, but also like, this is ours now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's new.
And they let us bring our own thing to it.
Yeah.
But again, now circling back to the first cast member who reprised her role, COVID's not gone. COVID's
Right.
still a thing. COVID swept through the cast and took out half of the cast, including myself. And there was literally no one left standing to play Mary Lane, to the point where they were calling girls who had done the callbacks. Like there was nobody left to be my understudy. And so they had to cancel 3 shows out of and for the last 2 shows, they didn't know what to do. And I get an email, a cast email saying, okay, so for tonight's performance, it is going to happen. For tonight's performance, I think it was tomorrow's performance because there was a rehearsal. For tomorrow's performance, Kristen Bell is going to play Mary Lane.
Wow.
So after 20 plus years and like 1 rehearsal, she came back and reprised her role for 2 shows.
Oh my
because
God.
there was literally nobody left. And I was like pinching myself because it's like I do not call out. I am a person that like if the playbill is a promise and the playbill says I play Mary Lane. So if I am ambulatory, I do the show. That's it. So I'm obviously never going to be happy to have to call out because I'm sick or for whatever reason, really only just because I'm sick. But the fact that was the outcome, because the character's a teenager. Like there is no world in which this would have happened unless everything went wrong. And it did. And she got to return to something that she says Reefer Madness like changed her life. It was the reason she moved to Los Angeles and had the family she has. So she gets to come back to this thing that means so much to her. And the audiences get to have this moment where it's like, this is the magic of live theater. Everything went wrong, but look what we get out of it.
Yeah.
Like I was this close to showing up in a hazmat suit so I could come watch it. But
here's the way that you should tell that story moving forward.
Oh, okay.
Kristen Bell was my
your
understudy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you have to say.
Kristen Bell was your understudy.
Sure. All right.
Yep.
That's what I heard.
That's what you heard.
I
sure.
heard Kristen Bell was my understudy in
Sure.
Reefer Madness the musical, which is fierce.
And it was so impressive too because it is her role, but it was a different show. Like, when she did it, it was 2 acts. For us, it was 90 minutes of nonstop insanity. The moment you start, you don't stop until you carry yourself. Our ensemble dancers, after the orgy number, were crawling up the stairs because they were so exhausted. I'm not kidding. Yeah. For real.
So it
was a completely different show that she had to learn in like 2 days. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
That's a consummate professional right there.
We saw a number from it.
Yes, but you weren't there. You weren't in that
there?
number.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about it.
We were at the Bourbon Room, and the cast came and
listen to Jesus.
And yes,
I was sick. That was one of the many times.
Well, where the hell was Kristen Bell?
Oh, God, sick. Well, so for that number, they didn't need me because I play Mary Magdalene in that number. So I'm up on the top of the staircase going, listen to Jesus to me, in a little shawl and everything. So they didn't need me for the Bourbon Room, but
Cute.
I played like 5 different. I was Mary Lane. I was the tap dancing brownie. I was dead Mary Lane, who was kind of ghosty and scary. I was a reefer zombie at the beginning.
Wow.
I was, of course, you could make an argument to say Mary Sunshine is a different version of Mary because I take 1 puff of reefer, become sex fiend, rip my clothes off.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this just sounds like a crazy show that just should have more life.
Yes.
And speaking of more life for it, the cast album is now available.
We did a cast album, the 25th anniversary revival cast album. Yeah.
That's
That
right.
is very cool.
So make sure you go check out the cast album.
It's on streaming. The CDs just came out, and I believe vinyl is coming in the spring. I believe.
Oh my
Vinyl.
goodness.
I think so.
Not vinyl.
I love that. I love that. What a perfect. I hope it's like how they do those like see-through vinyls sometimes. I hope they do like a green see through. You know,
You were talking about like blood splatter on one side and like green on the other.
Yeah,
Is
they
it like
make it
murder?
really cool.
I'm very confused on the plot.
Okay, so basically what happens is if you do pot, you try to have sex with everyone and then kill everybody.
Right.
Just say no. So that was
That's
basically
true, actually.
that was very, very true. So basically I take a puff of reefer and I try to assault Ralph with a carrot. Who was played by Thomas Dekker. Miss you, baby. I actually really do. But and so then Jimmy Harper kills somebody when he's driving high. But that doesn't matter because after it, he sings Mary Jane, Mary Lane, and he's in love, so everything's okay.
That's amazing.
That's okay. And then, of course, I get murdered as well.
Oh,
it's very Romeo and Juliet. So I'm a big Shakespeare nerd. I went to RADA to study Shakespeare. I've written 2 different versions of the Scottish play adaptations. One that I wrote for myself, one that Disney asked me to write because they didn't know I'd already written the other one. It's wild.
Wow.
But my first line in the show is, "It's sweet of you to help me study Romeo and Juliet." No problem. Where would you like to start? How about the prologue? She does not know anything about Shakespeare, but it's very Romeo and Juliet-esque. We were in a theater called, it used to be called the King. Now it's Whitley/the Reefer Den. And it was actually where Rock of Ages premiered, but we had a spiral staircase. So when we did Mary Jane, Mary Lane, it was literally the balcony scene from Romeo and Juliet.
Oh my God.
And I die in his arms because I get shot during the thing, and then I'm a ghost. And
Wow.
but then I come back to life because
because everything
Because why not?
great.
because everything's okay because he repented. So now I'm back alive.
I love
It's
that.
so funny to me that you like did this show and like love it so much because you are so like, you know, pure. You're such a pure person to me. Like the way I see you is just like very like, you know, what's the word?
Angelic.
Yeah, like you're just very clean. And then like you're just like, but maybe that's, you know, that's how you can have so much passion for the show.
Yeah, I have a very raunchy sense of humor, but people would make fun of me about that. Like they would at one point in the dressing room, they'd be like, "Mary Lane, close your ears," like
right.
you know, because they were talking about something. But you know, I was stripping down to my Mary Sunshine every night and you know, doing some very tawdry stuff. And I thought it was the most fun in the world.
I love that.
When we did Rapunzel, I was like, I'm wearing clothes for this one.
Yeah.
I don't have to glitter my cleavage. Wait, I'm confused. I don't have to contour my abs. Wait, what's happening? I was very confused.
Well, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about your career because you've done so many things. My goodness. One of which in particular speaks to me as a human being. You were on Desperate Housewives as the daughter of Lynette Scavo.
Yes.
I mean, how did that happen? I need to know. What was it like being on Wisteria?
Oh, it was wonderful. I mean, I've been very fortunate that a lot of the shows and projects that I've done, I have been connected to people who are really, really talented. So it was kind of like university every single time I showed up to work.
Yeah.
You know, starting all the way back with, you know, working with Eileen Davidson and Eric Braeden and all that.
Eileen Davidson.
I mean, that was my training was soap opera. Like, that's insane. And so, you know, getting to work with those people on Desperate Housewives, it's like, this is the cream of the crop on television right now. Like, let me just watch everything that I'm... Oh my gosh. Okay. One particular moment in particular, Larry Hagman came in to play my step grandfather.
Okay.
And his character was a piece of work.
Yes.
Horrible man.
Yes.
And the moment we sit down to take a family photo together, he dies during the family photo on the couch. So this is not rehearsal. This is our first take. And I'm sitting down next to him. I sit down, he looks at me, and he pats. Can I actually have your hand? I'll go. And he pats, and he goes like this. And I'm like, oh, you brilliant man. And so then I hear behind me, he's dead. And I try to get my hand out, and he tightens his grip. So now I'm the 11-year-old who can't get her hand out from a dead guy's hand.
Oh, my God.
Not in the script.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Larry Hagman.
And you were 11?
And I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And my favorite piece of acting advice that I got on that show from him was he said, don't do it too big or they'll ask us to stop. They'll notice. And eventually we got through like probably 20 takes and they were like, you gotta stop.
With the
I'm
hand
sorry,
thing.
it's so funny, but you just can't.
Oh.
And Larry was like, we tried.
Did they keep it in or did they cut it?
No, they cut it. It was actually out of frame anyway. It was
okay.
the people behind the couch that had the final beat of the moment. So
Got it.
But my mom was on set, and so she was back in Video Village, and she could hear. She was watching as everyone was going. But yeah, I mean, these are the people that I worked with.
Yeah.
You know, like this is just training.
Yeah, like
and
Hollywood
the
pros.
people who were on that show, you know,
Yes.
of course, that main cast was unbelievable.
I remember the first day.
I've looked up to Brie Vandekamp for years.
Yes. She was a sweetheart. She always looked at me like she wanted to bake me a plate of cookies. Like, even when she didn't know me that well,
Yeah.
like, you're such a sweet woman. Like, But I remember the first day I worked with Eva.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, I'm
Eva
home.
Longoria.
Eva Longoria.
Right, yeah.
Because
Of
so for
course.
the most part on Wisteria, if you weren't one of the main women, you worked with your family. So
Right.
I worked with Flicka, I worked with Doug. Like the bubble was our house.
Right.
Yes.
And then occasionally you would work with other people. I worked with Terry Hatcher on a scene that got cut. She came to Reefer, by the way.
Oh,
and
she did?
She came
Wow.
because she saw it on Kristen Bell's Instagram, and I was like, hi, I don't know if you recognize me. It's been a few years, but I'm Darcy Rose. I played Penny. She was like, Penny!
Yeah, wow.
Because I was
And now
just
you're an
like
adult.
doing a striptease in front of her, and she
Right.
didn't recognize me. So we had
God.
a lovely, hour-long
I was just going to
conversation.
ask, what is she up to?
We had a lovely. We didn't really get to what are you up to. We
Oh.
just chatted for like an hour.
Yeah.
Because after the show was the house band, the 420s, David Lammer on the 420s. So everyone would just stick around and just listen to live jazz music. We would go up and sing with the band, and so
Oh
it
my,
was just kind of
sounds like a
hangout.
fun party.
It was It was the new hot hangout spot in Los Angeles. It was fantastic.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was great. But what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So the first day I worked with Eva, it was like 10 minutes in, and she was just like playing with a hammer that was on the table for like the scene, and she went, "What's happening? Where am I shooting?" And I was like, "I'm home," because she came from soaps too.
Right.
So I was like, "I remember this."
I mean, that's what it's like on. I have one friend that was on a soap for a while, and they would like, what is it? You film like 5 episodes.
Depends on the soap.
Like-
So I was on The Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Beautiful as the same character.
Oh,
So
wow.
on The Bold and the Beautiful, we would do multiple episodes a day. And then on The Young and the Restless, it was one a day because it was Bold and Beautiful was a half an hour and Y&R was an hour.
Okay.
But it was 5 cameras, 4 cameras? Many cameras. And, I learned very early on to get it right on the first take because you're probably not going to get another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
You
just
know?
you really just do
You
it
rip
once,
through
right?
it.
Like
Yeah.
they don't. And do you really have rehearsal?
Well, we do. There was one point at which they tried to film the rehearsals, and Eric Braden said, "Sure, go ahead, film the rehearsal." Took out his glasses, put his script on the table, ready when you are. And that was our rehearsal. They never tried to do it again.
Wow. I mean, like that is just like it is such a different world,
Yeah.
But
Get our scripts the night before too.
right,
Right.
and you have to learn like 30 pages of
Yes.
dialogue
Yes.
overnight.
Do they
Show
give you
up.
cards?
No.
They give you no cue cards.
No.
Interesting.
I
Wow.
was 5. No cue cards. No.
You had to
Wow.
know everything.
And that was with Eileen Davidson, right?
Rewrites. There was like times where there was one scene in particular where I had this big monologue and I was getting rewrites from different people every other second, and so it was like this monologue paragraph that every single time I had the amount of time it took me to get from the booth to the stage to relearn the new dialogue.
And like,
my
what was
goodness.
I've heard that sometimes the energy on those sets can be really negative, for lack of a better word. Maybe not negative. I don't think they try to be negative. I think it's just they have a lot to do and they're on a very tight schedule and they're trying to get through it. Like, what was it for you being a young kid?
Yeah, I mean, nobody pulled any punches with me. Like, they weren't like kid gloving me, but I don't remember any time that I was like, that person was really cruel or that was
Right.
really mean. Like a good example was there was this one scene where I was supposed to come in. I must have been maybe 6 or 7 at this point, and I was supposed to come in. The butler opens the door and he goes, "Hello, Abby," and I go, "Where's Starfire, my horse?"
Yeah.
We rehearse the whole scene. We block it. We're moving on. And I'm just standing there and I'm like, hey, guys. Now, the booth was up somewhere, so it sounded like the voice of God talking to you. So I'm just talking to the ceiling, and they're like, yes?
Yeah.
Abby is very polite. She wouldn't not say hello to him. Like, hello, Abby, hi, Starfire, where's Starfire? She wouldn't do that. That's not, she wouldn't act that way. So it's at this point when Eric Braeden, and he has, I think, a reputation of being very tough. Like, he's probably one of the people that people talk about. He's not. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. He just knows what he's doing. And he walks in and he goes, why aren't we shooting?
Yeah, sure.
And our first AD, Herbie, was Darcy Rose has a problem with the script. And he went, carry on, let me know when you're ready.
Oh my God. Right, because you were like 7.
No, because I was right.
Right. Okay.
Not
well,
because I was 7.
That's true as well.
I was speaking up for myself for the character. I was like, this does not fit the character, and he's like, good job. Tell me when you're ready.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's great. Not a lot of people get that experience, and certainly not in most television actors don't get to influence things in that way. Yeah. So that's cool that you had an experience.
I've been very fortunate that I've worked with some really incredible people.
Yeah.
We are so grateful that you're here. I just think you are such a great example. You know, we have a lot of different actors and people on this podcast, and you are a great example of someone who, I mean, you've really worked with like so many people, everyone, and you grew up in LA. You've been on sets since you were 5 years old.
Yeah,
it's like in you. It's who you are. You know, earlier. Yeah. And you and like I think there is a type of actor like you that is not given the grace that you deserve, or like the credit that you deserve of like all of the things you've done, all of the experiences that you've had, all of the knowledge that you have about like being on set, being in a voiceover booth, like being on a stage, like and so many actors in LA, in Hollywood, like are like that. You know what I mean? And
the working actors.
Working actors. And I mean, I think you're more than that. I mean, I think you are a star, but but it's I feel like it's becoming less and less common for like big stars of shows to like work their way up in that way. Right. Like now it's like people that just kind of like catch fire, whereas it used to be like you work, you do the smaller roles, you show up, you get a good reputation, and then you know they give you a chance to be bigger and bigger. Right. And you're just a great example of like that is kind of still alive. Yeah. And it's such a big part of like the history of our industry and the history of like the acting, like the acting business, you know. And so I'm really glad that we were able to kind of share some of that today. Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You know, it's one of the things that's wonderful about that is that you have the ability to surprise audiences. Yeah. You know, like if I was like a big name where like everybody knows me, knows my brand, or whatever the hell that is, a great example was Reefer Madness. I was this perfect ingenue. You know, my solo song, Only Pew, is about praying to God to save the soul of my boyfriend. Right. Like, it's just, you know, very perfect and everything. And then Mary Sunshine happens. I'd rip my clothes off, take the hairpins out, and whip the hair. Right. And people didn't even know my hair was that long. Right. Because they didn't know who I was. Right. So you're a chameleon. You have that ability to shock and audiences and get to do different things and find new stories to tell because people haven't really gotten a beat on you yet. Yeah. And so it's kind of a superpower in that way. And those actors, like when they do make it big and break the trades and all those things, like, and they always do, like, first of all, they're always the best actors because they have the most experience, and they're always the people that we root for. You know, like Catherine Hahn is a great example of that. We talk about Catherine Hahn a lot of times on this podcast. It's like people like that. You always know who those people are because they just it's like in their soul. And, so getting to kind of share your experiences here today is a really great example of that. So
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so basically I'm just trying to say we love you and thanks for being
I love
here.
you guys. I've missed you guys.
Come
I
back
know.
anytime, girl. We are
Please.
around.
Yeah.
So if the people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
I have a TikTok, which is called The Real Darcy Rose Byrnes, I think. Instagram, Darcy Rose Byrnes. Facebook is derose.start, I think. And YouTube exists.
Come on, Facebook.
Yes,
I
Facebook.
guess. I think I'm probably most active promoting my shows and stuff on Facebook. I mean, on Instagram. And Sofia the First is coming back. You can see that
Hello.
It's coming back on
for a sequel series.
a sequel series.
sequel series.
Are they
That's gonna-
older? Are the characters older?
You're gonna have to watch to find out.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna be
are you?
permitted to say.
You're part of it?
Yes, I am.
That's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
That's I think 2026. That's coming
On
out.
Disney Channel? Disney Plus?
I actually don't know. I would
Wow.
assume Disney Plus, but I don't know at that.
Come on,
at this
Disney
point.
Plus.
Yeah.
Well-
and
See you at
I'm going to be
D23.
back at Laguna Playhouse.
Yes!
Doing Remarkable Mr. Holmes. So you can come see me live in person, doing 3 characters. The main one being Phyllis.
Yeah,
Please
if you're
buy
in
me
the
the
LA
books and
area.
books.
If you're in the LA area, head down to Laguna. It's a great place.
That's right. All right. Well, you can find us online. Let's Talk About That Pod on Instagram and TikTok, as well as YouTube.
And if you have a question or comment, you can send us an email at letstalkaboutthatpod@gmail.com.
And thank you once again, Darcy Rose, for being here. You are so wonderful, and we can't wait to watch everything that you get up to in the future.
Right back at you guys.
Yeah, we love you so much.
And we'll
I
see
love
you
you
next
guys.
week on Let's Talk About That.
I just wanted to be included.
That is the
Yes!
energy.
Yes.